want you to remember this moment, and don't forget it. If the New York Attorney General starts to take his homes away, starts to seize his assets, it's all going to be on camera. Pundits are going to sit there and scream about this. This man cannot be elected. You're going to create the greatest victimhood of 2024, and you're going to elect Donald Trump.
Imagine being a Democrat right now. Donald Trump showed up in New York. Today's the day where he's supposed to pay, what is it, $500 million, literally $500 million in this judgment made by one man. He never even got to talk to a jury. One man, one judge, this Engeram guy. Isn't that the thing that the Scientologists do when they're testing you to see if you're going to the next planet? Is that the Engerons or entrails? I don't know. I don't like talking about religion or Scientology for that matter. Anyway, here's Donald Trump showing up in New York, talking to the cameras before he gets into the courtroom.
Thank you very much, everybody. You getting a bond yet? This is a witch hunt. It's a hoax. Thank you.
It's a bit of a mic drop moment. Yes, I'm glad you're here, everybody. I have something to say. This whole thing is a hoax. That said, just moments ago, he did post on his Truth social media platform, which, by the way, is about to make him several $1 billion. God, I should have gotten in on that. Cash Patel, Devin Nunes, Larry, you want a piece? Like, nah, it's all right. I'm going to stick with my mutual funds. Again. Anyway, he says, Judge Engeron, that's his name. It's not entrails, it's Engeron. That makes much more sense. Judge Engeron has refused to obey the decision of the appellate division relative to the statute of limitations. This is a confrontation between a judge and those that rule above him. A very bad situation in which to place New York State and the rule of law. Basically, what he's saying is this whole thing is going to get overturned. The judge has made so many mistakes and gone against the appellate judge above him. But see, that's not the point, because by the time this gets overturned on appeals, it'll be 2026, 2 years into Joe Biden's second term. That's what they want. Or, God forbid, Kamala Harris's first term. All right, back to the Post. Engeron has disrespected the appellate division and its very clear and precise ruling. He should be made to do so, and at the same time, release the gag order. This is the fifth time in this case that he has been overturned, a record. His credibility and that of Letitia James has been shattered. We will abide by the decision of the appellate division and post either a bond, equivalent securities, or cash. This also shows how ridiculous and outrageous Engeron's original decision was at $450 million. I did nothing wrong, and New York should never be put in a position like this again. Businesses are fleeing, violent crime is flourishing, and it is very important that this be resolved in its totality as soon as possible. Thank you. So, yes, the decision now, as you can see from our buddy Benny Johnson. Hi, Benny. How's it going, dude? Good to see you, man. Nice hair. Benny Johnson says that the bond in New York City fraud trial has been decreased from the $545 million total to $175 million. That's hours before it was due. So that's the latest. Now you're up to speed, and he is going to post that bond. He's going to be able to go out. Last week, he said he's got like $500 million at his disposal. He says he was going to use it on the campaign. We shall see how much of that he can use on his campaign and how much he can continue to raise. And I mentioned True Social, when it goes public later this month, is going to net him a couple of $1 billion too. He's not doing too poorly for himself, considering all of the lawsuits and fake criminal activity they're throwing his way. The bigger question is, frankly, how does this affect our election? How does this affect who our next president is going to be? How does it affect the people's mood in this country? Well, I'm not a huge fan of Frank Luntz. He's the guy who does all those test marketing things, focus groups. He puts a bunch of people in a room and they turn a dial while they're watching a speech, whether they like it or don't like it. And then he takes all that information and talks to a politician. This is what people like. And then the politician, of course, just repeats what people like instead of, being a leader. It's one of the banes of American politics these days. And Frank Luntz was at the forefront of it. He always used to call himself a conservative, but he's not. So given the fact that I'm not a huge fan of him, it tells you something that I'm going to share this clip of him because I think he's spot on with it. He walked into the lion's den and he was that one guy on the CNN panel who dared to disagree with everybody else. By the way, they won't be inviting him back anytime soon. The reason he was there is because they expected him to be, a Trump basher like he usually is. But he nailed it on Saturday.
I want you to remember this moment and don't forget it. If the New York Attorney General starts to take his homes away, starts to seize his assets, it's all going to be on camera. Pundits are going to sit there and scream about this. This man cannot be elected. You're going to create the greatest victimhood of 2024, and you're going to elect Donald Trump. If they take his stuff, he's going to say that this is proof that the federal government and the establishment and the swamp in Washington and all the politicians across the country and the attorneys generals and all of this, that this is a conspiracy to deny him the presidency. He's going to go up in the polls just like he went up every single time they indicted him.
Well, he's right. And by the way, the reason why I say he's spot on here is because it brings Frank Luntz no joy to deliver this message. I mean, he's talking like he's going to a friend's funeral or something, right? He's not happy about this. He doesn't want Trump to be president. What are you doing? You're handing him the election, you people. Stop. He sees it. He gets it. And he's absolutely right. Because most Americans are not watching this day by day. If they are, then they're even more outraged. Most Americans are not watching it like the viewers of CNN and MSNBC, and for that matter, the hosts and producers at CNN and MSNBC, who are watching this almost like like it's pornography, like it's a snuff film. The bad guys getting slaughtered and tortured excruciatingly. They pop the popcorn and they actually enjoy this. They have fun with this. They actually are delighting in the suffering and the despair that Donald Trump, they think, is experiencing, although Trump has sort of stayed above it all. I mean, for Trump, most Americans are not watching it at all. And if they are watching it and they tune in, they're like, what are you talking about? You can't do this to people in this country. For God's sake, he was just president. Now he's running for president. What did he do again? Who was the victim in this whole financial thing where he has to now pay $500 million? Who was the victim? There are no victims, literally. We're told he defrauded banks, and the banks are like, I want to do more business with this guy. Defraud me some more, Donald. Newt Gingrich on Fox News put it very beautifully and sadly, dramatically, but succinctly.
And what you're watching is a financial assassination. This is a deliberate effort to destroy somebody because they're a presidential candidate. And I think the country understands that. And I think the country, most people, are enraged that the rule of law could degenerate into this kind of rule of power.
I mean, Newt, where are the other real estate executives in New York? Where are the bankers in New York coming to Trump's defense to say, look, there were no victims here? Where are these people who see this unfairness coming and speaking out? I don't hear anybody.
Right, because what they know is they could be next.
That's exactly it. This is tyranny. This is authoritarianism. This is, yeah, we're gonna kill this guy. We're gonna financially assassinate him. Don't get your panties in a wad. I didn't actually say that they were coming. I'm using Newt's words. Financial assassination. We're gonna go after this guy because we don't like him and he stands in our way and he's mean and he tweets things. But you keep your mouth shut about it though, because you're next. You know we're next because we're proving we've got the power to do this. So here we go. We're going to take him out on the street. We're going to put him right in the middle of the street. And here's the firing squad, the financial firing squad. And boom, he's dead. And you all saw it, right? This is a public execution. We're doing this on purpose. So you can all see it. Now keep your mouth shut, keep your head down, and don't cross us. Or you're next. Newt's 100% right. But here's the thing. I just said that most people aren't watching it like that. Most people aren't watching this like it's porn, like they work at MSNBC, or even worse, don't have a job, live in mom's basement and watch MSNBC. Most people aren't watching it like they're super duper like huge Trump supporters, and they're watching it like they're watching like they're watching their favorite sports team having to fight back from a deficit in the fourth quarter, but they know that their guys are going to win. Let's say the Eagles, because they're, no, let's not stop. I don't mean to go off the tangent. All right. Most people aren't watching it because most Americans right now, if they're even thinking about the presidential election, are kind of, this again. right? Have you heard that from your friends? Not your friends that are plugged in and politically and ready to go and walk across broken glass to vote for their guy. I'm talking about most Americans who don't live and die by politics every day. They're like, oh, wait, it's going to be Biden and Trump again? Oh, really? Okay, fine. See, here's the thing, because everyone's like, oh, these people have such fatigue. They're going to have to do something. Trump's going to have to do something to get these people over. No, actually, he doesn't. The fatigue is fine. Guess what? The people who are fatigued, they're not going to vote. Screw them. Honestly, you know what this election is going to be about? This election is going to be about the passionate ones. Who's most passionate for their candidate? This election will be a broken glass election. Which side is willing to walk again across broken glass to go and cast a ballot for their guy? Which side can't wait to get to the first day that they can vote? And based on some recent polling that Byron York at the Examiner has analyzed, if it's a broken glass election, if it's a walkover hot coals election, if it's a I don't care what happens, I am so fervently in favor of my candidate, I can't wait to cast that ballot election, Trump wins in a landslide. New polling, Byron reports, shows the super intensity around Trump. Republicans voting for him more than against Biden. Democrats are voting against Trump more than they're voting for Biden. What does that mean? It's a lot easier to get people to get out and vote when they're voting for someone than it is when they're voting to oppose someone. Ask any political analyst. Don't believe me? Go back and watch those cathartically wonderful videos of election night 2016, when the Hillary Clinton supporters were like, yeah, we don't really like her, but we don't like Trump, and it'll be nice to have our first woman president. And that was about it. That's all they had going for them. And what happened? How many people do you know who woke up the next day saying, I thought she was going to win. I thought it was in the bag. I thought it was over. I thought, right? Right now, if you poll people, that's why 2020 was so important, because they knew they weren't going to get people fervently excited for Biden. And it wasn't enough to have people vote against Trump. So that's why we had a pandemic. Oh, this election is going to be unlike any other election. Boy, it sure was. It sure was. Do you want to know how scared the Democrats are right now? Always good to check in with Mr. Democrat, the one and only James Carville. Was it Lizard Head? Was that his nickname that Rush used to call him? Rush used to call him that, by the way, because James Carville's wife, Republican political strategist Mary Madeline, used to call him that. Say what you will about James Carville, he's not dumb. And he knows how to get people elected, and he can read the current temperature and situation in the country when it comes to an election. He has an op-ed in the New York Times where he says Biden's losing support because, quote, a suspicion of mine is that there are too many preachy females. Don't drink beer. Don't watch football. Don't eat hamburgers. This is not good for you. If you listen to Democratic elites, NPR is my go-to place for that. Basically, it's the culture war. It's, oh, don't say that about transgender things. In fact, accept the transgenderisms that we're going to push down your throat. And don't drive that kind of car. You've got to have an electric vehicle. And don't be burning those carbons. And don't be, as he said, don't drink beer. This is what the party has become, because, as I've mentioned before on other shows, that's the only demographic they've got, is unmarried women who are angry at you. Or as he puts it, preachy females. He's not wrong. And by the way, of course, it received a swift reaction from a preachy female. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez didn't like what James Carville had to say and said, maybe he should start a podcast about it. I hear men are really underrepresented in that space. It's funny. I mean, I would take issue with James Carville here because I don't think it's preachy females necessarily, because the fact of the matter is you don't have to be a woman, even if you can't define it, to be a preachy female Democrat. I mean, honestly, between Andrew Cuomo and Gavin Newsom and Joe Biden and Chuck Schumer and George Stephanopoulos and Anderson Cooper, Joe Scarborough, they're the preachiest females out there right now. I think he was just mentioning preachy female as sort of a tone that he hears. from this party who wants to control everything in your life. And if you complain about it, they're going to start throwing a temper tantrum and screaming and crying about it. Frankly, thankfully, I and most conservative men I know, we don't have any women in our lives like that. Conservative women rock. Am I right, guys and ladies? Right? Conservative women rock. Tell me in the comments. Go ahead. Just thought I'd throw that out there too. James Carville, by the way, did show up to try to redeem himself. He's really doing the rounds these days, Jimmy Boy is. He was on the aforementioned preachy female Anderson Cooper show and said something disconcerting.
You are a proponent of the president and all his spokespeople in the campaign doing that more and more.
Yeah, not so much him. I mean, be candid, Anderson. President Biden is not the best attack politician I've ever seen in my life, and I'll leave it at that. But there are a lot of people that to do what I call, quote, the wet work, unquote. And I think
like
he
a
needs
mob
to
hit.
stay sort of a. Yeah, well, it's kind of, but it's a paid TV and stuff like that. But yes, a CIA term.
Yeah, a CIA term. You know what wet work is? I read a lot of these novels, you know, Tom Clancy and Vince Flynn and Brad Thor and Jack Carr. Wet work? You know what wet work is? Assassination. That's what they call wet work. It's assassination. Anderson chuckled at that. I do like it when Anderson giggles at things. He's such a cutie pie. Yeah. James Carville is advocating for people in the Biden camp to do the wet work against Donald Trump. Remember when we were told we're not supposed to have outrageous, violent rhetoric when we talk about politics in this country? Apparently, those rules only go one way. I will hand it to James Carville, though. He's right. He absolutely is right. And not with regard to Biden, but with regard to Trump. My biggest complaint about Trump campaigns and the Trump White House, for that matter, is that Bill Clinton and Barack Obama and now Joe Biden, they've got James Carvilles in their lives who do all the dirty work for them, who do all the wet work for them. And then the Clinton and Obama, they can stay above it all. It's like, oh, well, you know, those guys. Oh, I don't get involved in that sort of dirty politics thing. I'm above it. I'm a statesman, right? I mean, James Carville is an assassin. He is a political assassin with his words and with his tactics. And these Democrats always have a whole host of people who will go out there and say the most volatile, rude, horrific, devastating things about Republicans. And Trump, what's Trump got? Trump does it himself. Stay above it all. He gets right down in the dirt with it. And I know we love it about him, but also sometimes it's not a good look, especially when you're trying to be this, guy that represents everyone. He should have other people who can do that work for him. He should hire James Carville. I mean, he'll do anything for a buck, won't he? The bottom line here, though, not just on this story, but our next story about the media, is that they're in trouble and they know it. They're in major trouble. And frankly, what you're seeing play out this week in the courts ends up being a horrific backfire boomerang on their face. Because again, broken glass election. You can't wait, right? Tell me I'm wrong. You cannot wait to walk over broken glass to vote. You hate the fact that you've got to wait, 7.5 months now until you get the chance. Democrats aren't like that right now. Would you walk over broken glass for Joe Biden? Would you walk over marshmallows for Joe Biden? Would you even get up to walk anywhere for Joe Biden? Imagine being a Democrat right now. Just imagine.